Would you trust a lone horse standing at the edge of a lake, motionless, silent, as if it were waiting for someone to climb onto its back? They say that on nights when the fog crawls low over the cold waters of the highlands, a shape appears without warning. A horse of perfect appearance, strong calm, its dark coat shining under the moonlight. It doesn't neigh, it doesn't move, it just watches, but those who make the mistake of touching it never return. What is this creature hiding between beauty and death? A spirit, a demon, or a warning far too ancient to ignore? Today, on Urban Secrets, we step into the fog to uncover the legend of the Nykur, the ghostly horse that turns lakes into graves and curiosity into a death sentence. Scotland is a land shaped by wind, stone, and an ancient fear of what lives beyond the reach of light. Its jagged mountains, treacherous bogs, and deep lakes are more than natural features. They are living stages for stories whispered for centuries. Before Christianity arrived, the highlands were ruled by Celtic beliefs deeply tied to nature. Rivers, hills, trees, and especially lakes were seen as gateways, places where the human world brushed against the spiritual one. And where there are gateways, there are guardians. From this belief comes the Nykur, also known in Nordic and Celtic folklore as the Knack, Nix, or sometimes confused with the Kelpie. But make no mistake, while they're often mixed together, the Nykur has its own, far darker identity. Unlike the Kelpie, which is linked to rivers and can take human form, the Nykur belongs to deep, still-water Sicily lakes, natural reservoirs, places where silence feels heavier than sound. It rarely becomes human. It prefers the perfect disguise, a horse. To ancient Scots, the horse wasn't just an animal. It symbolized power, travel, and status. Kings were buried with horses. Warriors trusted them with their lives. Seeing a lone horse didn't spark fear, it sparked opportunity. And that is exactly where the Nykur thrives. Stories of this creature were passed down orally, generation after generation, as warnings disguised as legends. Warnings for curious children, for tired travelers, for anyone who approached the water without respect. Because the Nykur doesn't attack with force, it attacks with trust. Imagine walking alone at dusk. The sky is heavy, painted in dark blues and grays. The wind cuts across your face. Ahead of you, a lake stretches out like a cracked mirror, reflecting clouds that seem to move too fast. Then you see it, a horse standing at the water's edge. It's large, strong. Its coat looks damp, but not soaked. The muscles are defined, healthy. There's no saddle, no sign of an owner. And yet, it feels like it's waiting. Your instincts whisper that something is wrong, but your exhaustion tells a different story. You step closer. They say the Nykur allows the first touch. Its coat is cold, not like a living animal, but like stone soaked by night air. Still, it doesn't react. It doesn't pull away. It doesn't bite. That's when the trap snaps shut. The moment someone tries to mount the horse, their hands stick to its coat as if glued. No matter how hard they struggle, no matter how loudly they scream, the Nykur moves. With a sudden leap, it plunges into the deep waters of the lake, dragging its victim beneath the dark surface. The water closes, the silence returns, and the horse is never seen again. Neither is the rider. Some versions of the legend claim the Nykur grows with every victim. The more people it carries, the larger it becomes, sometimes allowing several children, or even adults, onto its back before disappearing. Other stories say it chooses carefully, the curious, the lonely, those who ignore nature's warnings. But there are details even more disturbing. Old accounts describe bodies or pieces of them surfacing days later. Swollen hands, torn clothing, marks on the skin resembling hooves. Always near the lake, always as a reminder. The villagers knew. They taught children never to touch strange horses near water. They taught them to look at the hooves, Because, according to legend, the Nykur can never fully hide what it truly is. Some say its hooves are backward. Others swear water constantly drips from its body, even when it hasn't rained. And there are those who claim its eyes don't reflect light at all. They are too dark, too deep, like the lake itself. Over the centuries, the legend of the Nykur blended with real drownings, unexplained accidents, and disappearances without witnesses. Lakes were avoided. Paths were abandoned. Certain places earned names no one dared to question. Kisok, because in Scotland, people don't ask if the Nykur exists. The question has always been something else. What if it's still waiting? Some stories don't end with drowning. Some say the true horror of the Nykur begins after the water closes. According to old accounts kept alive in villages near the highlands, fishermen claim to hear screams rising from the depths of the lakes on windless nights. Not echoes, not animals, human voices, they say. The Nykur doesn't just drown its victims, it drags them into a realm where time doesn't work the way it does for us. A cold, dark place where the pressure of the water crushes the body, but not the mind. There's one specific legend, recorded in the 18th century, about a young shepherd who vanished after being seen riding a black horse near a lake, now known only as An Loch Duvda Black Lake. Days later, his body surfaced, but something was wrong. His lungs were filled with water, as expected, but his hands were torn apart, as if he had tried to pull himself free from something alive. And on his wrists, deep marks like hooves pressed into flesh. The most disturbing part, his face. They say his expression wasn't panic. It was late understanding. As if, in his final moments, he had realized he wasn't facing an animal, but something far too ancient to have a name. Other versions claim that, on rare occasions, the Nykur allows a victim to escape, not out of mercy but to spread fear. Those who survive describe the same vision. At the bottom of the lake, just before losing consciousness, they swear they saw the horse come apart, its skin splitting like wet mist, revealing a twisted, elongated shape almost serpentine, eyes glowing with dead light, a presence so overwhelming the body shakes uncontrollably. And then, absolute silence. When these people wake up, they're on the lake's edge, coughing up water, alone. But they are never the same. They begin to avoid water, wake up at night hearing hooves, smell the lake even when they're far from the highlands. Because, according to the legend, once the Nykur chooses you, you are never truly unwatched again. Over the centuries, many have tried to explain the Nykur away. They said it was just a metaphor for dangerous currents, a warning for children, a poetic excuse for drownings. But the people of the highlands never laughed at these stories. They knew legends don't come from nothing. The Nykur represents something deeper, a reminder that nature is not gentle, that beauty can be a trap, that not everything that looks safe was meant to be ridden. Even today, there are lakes in Scotland locals refuse to approach at dusk, places where horses won't drink the water, trails no one takes when the fog rolls in too fast. And when asked why, they don't answer. They just changed the subject. Because some stories survive not because they are told, but because they are respected. If you were walking alone and found a motionless horse at the edge of a lake, would you step closer? Or would you remember this story? If you believe some legends exist to keep us alive, leave a like. Subscribe to Urban Secrets to keep exploring the mysteries that live between the real and the impossible. And tell us in the comments, do you think the Nykur is just a myth, or something that's still waiting in the fog? Because here, on Urban Secrets, we don't look for easy answers. We follow the trails left by fear, and some of them lead straight into the water.